Hey, how's it going? I'm back here for the week 2 recap with I'm with Sierra Kilo again. How's it going, man?
Well, hello, Badger. Once again, we meet.
Yeah, rather long week. We had some issues with that, but we're there, we're done, we're ready to move on to week 3, but right now we're going to talk about week 2.
Sounds good.
How was your week 2 experience? Did you have a good time?
I did. It was a lot more of the same from week 1, as it turns out, playing against the same guy. But it was a good week overall, and it looks like it was a pretty good week for most of the teams.
Yeah, it looked like, at least for the most part, I think there was one exception, that everybody did better against the opponents that they lost against. So it sort of evened the playing field after that first game. People learned. I think the only exception was with your game, but with playing against vampires, vampires need some time to get a better team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just unfortunate dice rolling. It didn't have anything to do with skill or performance. It was just unfortunate bloodlust.
Yeah. Okay, for the games that were played, we had, starting out with the Nordic Kneecappers and the Umbrella Corporation. Talked a little bit about that. How, quick rundown of your impressions of the game?
Um, it started off pretty quick. I think I had my first score by turn 4. He took a lot of... Okay, so in the first 6 turns, he had 5 bloodlusts and 3 casualties on his thralls.
That's
So
rough.
by the time I scored, he was already 4 players down. And he did a good job protecting the ball. I defended against all of his attempts to get a touchdown. Really good positioning for the amount of players that he had. But that's just how it worked out with the vampire team. Both games was way, way, way above the odds level for that bloodlust to activate.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be mitigated throughout the season. He might get a couple games where Bloodlust doesn't really pay or play any factor, and then that'll make up for these 2 games.
Right, I sure hope so, because he's a great player, has a fun team, and I'm looking forward to having some other people play against that team as well, especially folks who haven't had an opportunity to play against a team like that.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. So the next game it was actually my game, exactly as planned versus Pitch Doctors. You said that you watched it, but for the most part, I think rolls were a pretty considerable one in that one as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that your first 3 turns ended by a failed dodge roll, even though you have Stunty.
And dodge.
And dodge, of course, yeah. So
Uh,
that kind of surprised me how you played a very smart game and it just didn't work out in your favor.
Yeah, and that happens. He's got a really strong team. He learned from his last game. He made a few mistakes, but nothing became a glaring mistake because it just so happen to just follow the right direction every time.
Right, and what I really noticed about him, and I'm looking forward to playing against him. I didn't see a lot of mistakes, but I did see quite a few missed opportunities.
And that's probably a better way to describe it.
Yeah, he didn't do anything that hurt him, but I really do think that, especially on that opening drive, he had an opportunity where you didn't have possession of the ball. The ball was one, so he kicked off to you.
Yep.
The ball ended up on the left side of the field from your perspective,
Mhm.
and you never managed to pick it up for the first 3 turns. Actually, your Pogor didn't even get to move, and we already talked about the fact that those failed dodge rolls. But what I think he should have done was, because you had one of your goblins on the sideline,
Mhm.
I think that he had an opportunity to tackle him out of bounds but he tackled him at an oblique angle and pushed him into the ball, one closer to your end zone.
Yeah, and I remember that one. I don't remember
If he could have gotten that player out of bounds and off the ball, he could have had the open left side of the field to drive, and I think it would have been a touchdown early, and I think it would have been 2-0.
Yeah, and I think learning from what I was trying to do from my previous game against him was that I scored too soon, letting my secret weapons get ejected very early.
Talked about that as well last time, because it was what, three turns last time?
3 or 4. It was very quick, and I was trying to not replicate that mistake this game, and it ended up biting me because for the most part my rolls were terrible. I usually don't put my loony on the line at the beginning. But with him putting that Beastman on the line, I wanted a free attack with my loony without having to use a blitz, and he just happened on turn 0 to get a blitz, so that was very unfortunate.
Yeah, which is a good thing to say, because that was the kickoff event really changed the tide of that match, I think.
Yes.
Having that loony out was debilitating, especially as a receiver. It's not normally a high-risk move to put your players on the line for a first turn block.
Yeah, it did end up with him winning. That game was 1-0. I did hold him to only 1 touchdown. He was close to his second one, and I never got too close to a touchdown.
Right. So we'll play that as he is more of a novice player and definitely learned how to manage his team and you as an opponent a little bit better, and unfortunately your roles kind of played a big factor in that game.
No, and I definitely don't want to take anything from him. He did make a few very good decisions. He was focusing more on blitzing with his Beastman, which was getting, I mean, against Goblins it doesn't make that much of a difference, but he was showing more promise as a player, and I don't want to downplay anything that he did.
And he really was getting that +1 strength with horns, and using that to his advantage. He did it a couple times against your ogres to a good effect.
Yeah, those.
It was funny to me because I couldn't hear you during your match. I could only hear him talk. So it really was as if he was just kind of talking by himself his way through the match, because he did a good job of kind of thinking out loud for me.
Yeah. Alright, for the next game, it was the Iron Beer Bellies versus the Crazy Eights, and this was an unfortunate one merely because we didn't really get a chance to watch it, and the recap was right at the beginning of the week. It was a long week, and the recap wasn't very thorough. All we know is that basically the score and maybe a couple highlights. It did end in a tie, which coming back from a 2-0 in the previous week, that shows that the Crazy Eights, Action Jackson, the coach, showed a massive amount of improvement.
Oh, I agree, and that's what we were looking for at the beginning of the week when we talked about that matchup, saying that we really like to see a little more presence, because during his first game, Action Jackson didn't get any star player points aside from the MVP at the end of the game. So it shows kind of a lack of action overall for his team. And being able to swing this to a 1-1 tie, I think that was excellent.
Yeah, with a new team, never really played demons, and then going against dwarves again, it's tough. And he did gain some extra star player points. He still hasn't had anybody level, but he has 3 characters at 5, so we can hope at least 2, if not all 3 of those characters level up his next game.
That sounds great.
And for the last game, I have to say maybe it was just because we had to wait the whole week to see it happen, but really that game was a big game. The Snarl 2 Smashes versus Ducky Shoes Sunday Speedwalkers. That's swung almost the complete opposite direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Snarl 2 Smashes came out 2-0 and almost had a 3rd touchdown. I mean, it almost was the same amount of scoring, but almost the complete opposite side.
Yeah, it was 2-1 last week in favor of Ducky Shoes and her Sunday Speedwalkers, and this time 2-0 for Snarl 2 Smashes. And I'd like to contribute that a little bit to the research that we talked about, just knowing your opponent. And I think that from the recap that I read, it seems like Masrak did a better job of positioning his players and didn't just let the elves run all over him.
Yeah, I actually had a short interview with him after the game while it was fresh, and he said that, and Ducky Shoes actually agreed with a lot of it. I talked to her as well, that the Orcs were more spread out on the pitch. He didn't purely focus on a hit game. He had more field position, making it more difficult for dodge rolls to be done, and ignored the tree. That was a huge factor in the last game, and doing
right. The tree was sucking up 3 of his players against a team who's notoriously good at dodging around.
Exactly.
A fairly open field, so that makes a big difference. Cutting off those alleyways.
Yeah, early on in the game, he was able to get 3 of his players onto the elf thrower. Wasn't able to do anything to the elf thrower, but on the elf thrower's turn, the thrower threw the ball, but with that -3 modifier, fumbled the pass.
Right.
Which is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Does she dodge away, or does she attempt the pass at a -3 modifier? My vote, I probably would have tried to get out of the way with that agility 4, but things happen.
Right, and but unless from my perspective, unless you know exactly how the players were configured, a double dodge would have been, I think, just as risky, but a single dodge would have been a much better choice if that was an opportunity.
All right. After that, the elf thrower actually got injured in that tussle. I'm pretty sure he just tackled it and brought it down. She, at the beginning when she received, she wasn't, and he didn't know if it was on purpose or not, and I didn't get a chance to ask her, but he had a loner player, and she wasn't going after the loner, which, if she was actually looking at the actual skills of the players, that's a really good thing to do, not go after the loner. Force him to burn his rerolls.
That's a really smart move.
And not that she was choosing to not go against anybody, it's just she was making the loner the last priority. Going into the half, the Sunday Speedwalkers only had 9 players on the pitch, which a reduction of 2 players isn't that huge, and I think the Snarl 2 Smashes went into the half with 10.
Yes.
The Snarl 2 Smashes, Masrak actually admitted to making a terrible misclick, and it forced his thrower that was holding the ball to attempt 3 dodge rolls through an elf line. And with 1 reroll at the end, he was able, or using 1 reroll at the end, he was able to actually make those.
Nice.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you get lucky.
Yeah. He said that the elf player was probably playing too aggressively and staying in line, allowing a lot of free blocks from the orc players. As we know, agility teams, they need to at least stay 1 space away and try to give no more tackles than just the blitz.
Right, and that's the way that you want to roll them. And when you play toward your team, you generally tend to win. And when you play to your opponent, like a team that's good at hitting, you're gonna end up losing.
Yeah. Ducky Shoes did choose to have only 2 rerolls. Obviously, the Wood Elves are a more costly team for the salary of their players. But the 2 rerolls played a huge factor because a couple of failed 2+ dodge rolls ate up her rerolls fairly early in each half, and then from then on she wasn't able to get much done due to a couple botched rolls. So those rerolls did play at least a moderate factor in her not at least getting 1 touchdown.
Right, but you can't falter for taking 2 rerolls with a team like that. That's about where I'd be if I was making a team.
Yeah, I'm always partial to rerolls. I would have cut something somewhere to get maybe at least 1 more. I like to go in with 3, especially when they're half priced. But yeah, she really wanted that tree. She was adamant about the tree, and she likes her team composition. So I think for what she has, she did fine. That's just that risk that you have to take when you don't take rerolls.
Right. And, you know, that's one of those things that you look at when you make your team and say, how am I going to play it? Because there are so many different ways to play each team based on the style and preferences of the coach.
It makes it a great game.
Absolutely.
Okay, since the recap of the games is over, we'll move on to the Butcher's Bill of the Deaths. We had no deaths this week, which is in stark contrast to the 3 last week.
Right.
Uh,
Luck is turning out in the favor in general, you know? Trying to
yeah,
balance the fates.
and that's good. The damage report, we actually had 3 injuries this week. The Umbrella Corporation missed, Leon Kennedy's missing next game. Not sure if you caused that or if he caused that. Most likely he caused that.
I believe he caused that.
Yeah. My team, the Pitch Doctors, Nurse Tipgrit is missing next game. And then for your team, actually, Cole Nordic Sun, a lineman, is missing next game.
Yeah, that was kind of a shock to me, but that's how it goes. You hit enough, and that armor value is going to get penetrated.
Yep. Lot of levels for the Rising Stars this week. Sunday Speedwalkers had Chessain, the lineman, and she actually picked up shadowing.
Interesting.
I talked to her last week after the first games were played, and her plan is to give as many players, if not all of them, shadowing. I personally would not go that route. I think shadowing is a good ability, but I think it should be used sparingly. But if it works, it works. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Right, and it comes to the point when we're talking about not giving your opponent free blocks and staying that close. I mean, that's definitely, if you get a whole team of players with shadowing, that's really obnoxious when you're trying to dodge away. But at the same time, having your armor value 7 players with high agility that close to your opponents is a risk. We'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, pure speculation here. I see that not working out very well. I see her team taking a lot of unnecessary hits, and that shadowing not doing enough to mitigate it. And halfway through the season, she may start spacing him out, which will make the shadowing useless.
Right.
The Smashes actually had the most level ups, 3 level ups. Gorfak, the Blitzer, he picked up Tackle with that one, which, in my opinion, perfect choice for a Blitzer. I'd go that way almost every time first. Moglop, another Blitzer, he picked up Sure Hands, which is an excellent choice because I believe that he's going to make that one his star runner.
Yep, excellent. And to put that on a Blitzer is the way to go.
I agree. And then he had a lineman named Garak that he picked up Block on. Honestly, I have no issues with any of those. Those are all perfect choices.
Absolutely. Playing to the position, Block on the line, Tackle on a Blitzer, and Sure Hands on another one. So excellent.
Exactly as planned, got 2 level ups. Belmoth Liverrip, the Chaos Warrior, he picked up Block, which money choice. Chaos
Absolutely. Your guys on the line, getting that block, especially playing me next week. We're going to have a couple block-to-block face-offs, I think.
And it was a good choice. And again, with exactly as planned, Spay Pelt, a Beastman, he picked up the mutation Big Hand, which is I think a good choice, especially if it's going to be playing his as his runner and his obviously safety if he's going to be a runner as well.
Right, and you look at it and say, I watched him last game, and there was obvious verbal frustration on constantly having a 4+ pickup, and he failed a couple of them. So he saw a weakness in the team and made a change to remedy that. So good choice on coaching. We'll see how that helps.
Mm-hmm. And then for your team, you actually had one, Kadran Nordic Sun lineman. You picked up Tackle, which I think with the combination of already having Block, Tackle is a perfect choice.
It's the standard for what I'm going with. Picked up the Tackle last time, picked up the Tackle this time. Unless I can open up something else, that's going to be my kind of standard.
Yeah, and I agree. That's a good choice. Not much more on that one. For this week, some predictions. You're going to be playing, as we spoke, exactly as planned, the Chaos player. Uh, where do you think you stand on that one?
I think that I have a little bit more experience, especially because I've been playing this Norse team in practice rounds and trying to kind of see how they balance out against other teams before actually getting lined up against them for the season. I'm excited to see how he's going to develop. I'd like to think that I have the edge based on player positioning and use of the field, but the way that he's picking up the pro tips that I'm seeing in from week to week, that's a tough team to play.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you. I think you have the edge based on experience. I think your team might be a little more honed. I mean, it's a small degree, but I think your team is a little more streamlined than his. His is kind of due to the lack of skills, just because chaos is chaos. You have a more focused team, and I think that's going to be play a big factor.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to get that runner-thrower combo to work for me.
Yeah, and we'll just have to see how the game goes. For the next one, the Umbrella Corporation, Master Moose against the Iron Beer Bellies. He's, man, Master Moose is just not getting an easy schedule, is he?
No, absolutely not. Getting hit, smash teams three in a row, especially when he's been rolling pretty poorly on that bloodlust to kind of get stuck with more players off the field. I think if he keeps the thralls up then and keeps the team on the field, then he's going to be okay, because those vampires are good as long as you have the ability to use them. But when you're constantly in fear of taking a movement action or a block with them, then it changes the entire tempo of your team, and it kind of shuts down your operation.
I agree. None of his players have dodge, so he really shuts down my favorite part about dwarves, and that's the tackle. So
Yeah.
they're going to be mitigated on their strength with the blockers. The Troll Slayers aren't going to do much. I mean, his best is a strength 4, so they're slightly mitigated as well. He's definitely taking a lot of power away from what the dwarves have, their speciality, but it's going to come down to those bloodlust again. If he can, just get a little lucky and be able to use that bloodlust effectively, I guess. It seems so backwards. I think he has
it still makes me laugh when you look in the dice channel and it goes bloodlust activated.
Yeah. I think
it's just the way that it sounds. You're like, this is awesome, and then you realize
it's not awesome.
That's not awesome.
But it'll be an interesting game. I think that might be my vote for most interesting game of the week. But we'll have to see.
Right. You look at the coaching styles, and you know that Master Moose is just the technician of the league, where he looks at every angle. I actually took a nap during one of his turns, woke up, and it was still his same turn.
Awesome. But he always makes the right choice.
He does. He really does. And then you look at Flying Coconuts, who not to take away from the coaching ability, but really does just seem to roll 6s all day.
Yeah, may not make the best choices, but ends justify the means, I suppose.
Right, absolutely.
For the next game is myself, Pitch Doctors against the Snarl 2 Smashes, which is a game I'm mixed emotions about it. I'm looking forward to it because, obviously I'm friends with everybody on this league, but the Mass Rack is a good friend of mine, and I really got that rivalry, orcs, goblins, all that stuff. There's a lot of fun things going on there, but at the same time, actually playing against that team is going to be heinous.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'd like to see from you is that those secret weapons are awesome. If you can get into position to lob a couple more bombs than you did last game, and maybe not get your loony knocked out and off the field for the game the first turn before your first turn, I'd like to see what you can do, especially because that's going to be your opportunity to battle toe to toe against a team like the Smashes.
I did already make a pretty big decision for this game, and we haven't even played. Because he purchased a Black Orc and he had 3 levels, his team value, I believe, is at a 1060 right now.
That's what it's showing here.
Yeah, 1060. Mine is at 930, I believe. Yes, 930.
Yes.
So, because of that, I have in my treasury 60,000. I chose not to purchase anything and just hold on to my funds. I'm taking 2 loner goblins due to one being dead and one being injured. But in return, I'm going to get 130,000 in inducement, which I'm going to use for 2 bribes.
Excellent choice.
I think the difference of just taking the loner, because I could only get 1 goblin replaced, so it would only be 1 loner versus 2 that I'm going to have. I think it was worth it to potentially keep 2 of those secret weapons on the field for an extra drive.
And I'll tell you what, I'm very excited that you brought that up. But because when I was going through my team, I looked at what exactly as planned had my opponent for next week, and I calculated exactly how much I was going to spend. I picked up, because I have a player that's out for this week, I picked up another player for 50,000, another lineman, and just to have one in reserve, I don't think is going to affect me. I brought my let's see, I'm up to 1080 for a team value, and exactly as planned is 1130. So that'll give me a Bloodwiser Babe.
Yep, and a Bloodwiser Babe, I mean, for free, those 3 pluses on getting knocked out guys back, especially with your low armor value, that's gonna, I think that might help you out.
Yep, and I know that I did pick up a cheerleader and an assistant coach, but I made sure to keep that 50,000 difference so that I could get some inducement.
And that's an important part.
And that's one of those things that, because I've been playing a little bit longer, you can take a little different perspective on it, where a lot of what happens isn't on the field, it's how you set your team up. And I'm proud that I was sneaky enough to do that.
Yeah, you definitely sneaky git like us goblins, and we're proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Alright, for the last game, it's going to be Crazy Eights and the Sunday Speedwalkers. This is going to be a very interesting game. This is 2 teams that I don't... And, not just speaking truthfully here, I don't think either of these teams have really been set comfortably into their teams yet.
No, I agree. I think that they're doing as much battling with their teams as they are with the opponent.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a game on who can not only get comfortable with their team first, but who can learn what the opponent's weaknesses are quickly.
Oh, absolutely. And this is going to come down to managing your skills on the field, good placement, and good decisions.
Yep, there's 2 teams that are very strong if used well, but if not used well, are pretty terrible.
Right, and you're looking at Action Jackson's team is full of those pit fighter cultists with frenzy. Managing that frenzy is going to be a big deal. Corn Heralds, again with that frenzy plus the Juggernaut and the horns. It's definitely a team that needs to be kept a little bit on a leash, otherwise they will get away from you. I mean, all that power with no control.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to have to worry about that frenzy for more than just potential failed blocks. It's going to have to play largely into his field position. Those 2 movement potential with the frenzy tackling could open up routes for the Wood Elves to just take touchdown after touchdown after touchdown.
Right, but again, having that having the agility that the Sunday Speedwalkers have and if they can spread the field and use that to their advantage, which they ought to, they'll be just fine. So it can really go both ways. It depends on who takes control of that pitch and just imposes their will on their opponent.
And I agree. All right. Now that it's updated, since enough weeks have passed, we can start looking at the Hall of Fame. Just looking at the number 1 position, most experienced player is actually Chesney for the Sunday Speedwalkers. That would be a lineman, which is kind of, it happens, linemen's, but I think that lineman has been doing a lot of catching.
Yeah, that are, without really knowing, I mean, a 10 is a perfect random 2 MVPs as well. You never know how that turns out.
We can look at probably the player statistics and see exactly where it came from. Go ahead if you're looking at the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about
I'll go through that. Best scorer is, let's see, tied for first with 2 touchdowns is Ulrim from Iron Beer Bellies and Gorgfak from Snarltooth Smashes. So that's pretty good. Let's roll to best thrower.
And you're actually right. Chesney did get actually grabbed both MVPs.
It seemed like a weird number for me, 10. So that was good.
That's crazy.
Let's see, best thrower with
3 passes.
3 passes. Albert Wesker from Umbrella Corps and Chesta from Sunday Speedwalkers.
Yeah, passing teams. I think. I can't remember specifically, but I think maybe at least one of those passes from the Umbrella Corporation was merely for start player points.
That's 100% true against me. He even said that on Facebook. He was like, "Well, looks like this is going to be the only way to do it."
Yeah.
But the thing to note on that is the number 3 player with 2 is also from Sunday Speedwalkers. So
yeah, passing team galore.
Yep, exactly as it should be. So good use of your team.
Most violent player, we have 2 casualties from exactly as planned, and then Snarltooth Smashes, Spay Pelt and Moglop, both of which have leveled up.
For sure, good stuff.
Funny enough, the Iron Beer Bellies actually take best runner for basically most yards. Those stunties are apparently huffing it.
Yeah, as it turns out. But we kind of expected that with Ulrim having 2 touchdowns in the first game. We knew that he was picking up some pretty significant yards, and he's quite a bit above everybody else. I mean, he's got 90 when everybody's 3 following or low 70s.
Yeah, so it's a fairly close game.
Right.
For best thrower, I actually take it with Dr. Stickman, my team captain. 44 yards in passing. Dr. Stickman really throwing that ball out.
Excellent choice.
And then, obviously for Survivor, everybody who's still alive is still alive. That won't make a huge difference for a while. For the Murderers, it's a 3-way tie between Snarltooth Smashes, Sunday Speedwalkers, and exactly as planned. And then our best receivers obviously come from the Sunday Speedwalkers, 3 and 2.
Who happen to have the most passes, so that'll work.
Yeah. For the rankings, 8 is Umbrella Corporation, Master Moose pulling in the back with no wins and no ties.
That's not necessarily his fault. That's purely due to my superlative action on the field.
Obviously, your skill is just unsurmountable. And then I'm pulling up in 7th, league manager and all, with 1 point, with a draw and a loss. Also, lowest team value in the league.
Strategically, though.
Strategically lowest team value in the league.
See how that makes a difference?
It does. It's a huge difference. The Crazy Eights are pulling in 6. They're looking exactly like mine. 1 draw, 1 loss, 1 point. 1,010 team value, keeping it above that starting value, which is good.
Yep.
Snarltooth Smashes, that win, putting them to 5th place. 1060 on team value, win and loss. 3 points. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Sunday Speedwalkers, exactly the same, obviously, since win and loss against one another. Team value at 1010. Exactly as planned. He's actually third. I mean, obviously playing against a brand new Goblin team probably helps a lot, but he still pulled it out. 4 points, 1 win, 1 draw, and the highest team value in the league.
And I think that's a big testament to what he purchased before the season started.
Yes. Iron Beer Belly's in second with a win and a draw at 1100 team value. And then for you, at the top there, you knocked down the Sunday Speedwalkers and took first. You have 6 points and just undefeated, only undefeated team here.
What up?
Well, I guess technically not the only undefeated team. There are 2 other teams that have not been defeated, but they also have draws.
That's defeat in itself.
Exactly. There's no ties in Blood Bowl.
There's no ties in Blood Bowl.
Well, I think that's it for us. Do you have anything else you want to throw in?
No. Good luck to all the teams next week. You've had 2 games to sort through some of your own issues, so now it's time to not have problems with your team and look to put the hurtin' on your opponent. Let's see some blood.
Yeah, all right. Everybody play hard and at least have a little bit of a good time. We'll see you later. Thanks a lot for watching. If you like what we're doing, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
And like me. Don't like Jake. Like me.
Exactly. Don't like, yeah, I'm not a, yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye.